What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. I just realized that I just made my 100th video. Thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel and who watches. What I made it to this point without you guys, so I'm very grateful for that. Hopefully by 200 videos we'll have like 100k subs or something, hopefully. Anyways, you guys contributed to the channel and I can't thank you enough. It just means so much to me. Now, this is one of the more emotional title victories ever. Eddie Guerrero, a guy who was released from WWE in 2001 due to his problems, managed to return and fight his adversity, came back, rebuilt the trust, and in the end, he exercised his demons and became WWE Champion. It's such a touching story. In this video, I'll do my best to capture the essence of Eddie's title reign. I've got to do Latino Heat justice. So for this one, we gotta go back to 2003. Eddie Guerrero at this point had just become a single star and a very good one. He was a former United States champion, and the very first one, I might add, and he was really connecting with the crowd as a single star. The fans knew what Eddie went through, and they supported him. WWE noticed this, and they decided it's time for Eddie to be rewarded. On the January 29th, 2004 episode of SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero managed to win the SmackDown Royal Rumble. This meant Eddie was the #1 contender to the WWE Championship at No Way Out. Finally, Eddie gets his one-on-one title match. Come to think of it, I don't think he got a world title shot one-on-one. Now, this is all good, but the only problem with this was that Brock Lesnar was the champion, and it was the final obstacle Eddie had to hurdle over before making it to WrestleMania. Lesnar the following week on SmackDown told Eddie that he isn't scared of him because he's beaten Hogan, Rock, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle. All of those guys are all-time greats, so why would Lesnar be afraid of Eddie? Eddie replied to this, and these are in his own words. Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Big Show, Kurt Angle. Damn, bro, I'm impressed. Holmes, if I had a resume like that, man, I wouldn't be afraid of Eddie Guerrero. Oh no. See, Brock, I don't have all those accomplishments. The only thing I have going for me, Holmes, is that every obstacle that's been put in front of me, I have overcome. But I ain't overcome these obstacles, ese vato, by listening to people like you. See, all my life, Brock, I've had people like you in my ears. Ese vato. Hey, Eddie, you're not 6'7", 300 pounds. Orale, vato, you'll never do anything in the wrestling business, Holmes. Orale, Eddie, those personal demons that you have battled every day, they're too strong for you. You can't beat them. You'll never gain your kids back. You'll never redeem your dream. You'll never redeem your children. You can't do it, Eddie. You're a no one. No, Holmes, by the grace of God, I am beating those demons. I am overcoming those obstacles. See, because all I do is picture people like you in my mind. I hear the voices just like I'm hearing them by looking at you, Holmes. Just like I've been seeing and hearing all those people saying, you can't do it, Eddie. That's what I see in you, Brock. I see nothing but a big fat face of hatred when I look at you. I see nothing but my next obstacle, Holmes. See, Brock, at No Way Out, you're not going to be facing Eddie Guerrero. You're going to be facing all the battle within me. All the fire that burns within me. You're gonna be facing Latino Heat. Oh my god, I just had to emphasize it too, but go watch the promo. Eddie cut a masterpiece of a promo. It's probably his best of all time, although I'd say that one that he cut holding Ray's mask and the one where he's on top of the ladder might be better. Depends on what you think, but for me, this is probably the best one. The fire and the passion in this promo was, I can't describe it. It's coming from a very real place. Lesnar laughed it off while the fans chanted for Eddie. The WWE champion then said that all of Eddie's demons and people were right. Eddie Guerrero, you are no one. Eddie blasted him and he sent Lesnar running. But wait, there's more. The next week on SmackDown, Brock Lesnar told Eddie that he hopes Latino Heat is addicted. Addicted to losing because he's gonna get his fix at No Way Out. Eddie bounced back, and once again, I'm quoting a part of this promo. I've disgraced my race. I've disgraced my family. I've disgraced myself. But you know what, Brock? I came to a point in my life where it was do or die. I had to make a decision. Do or die. And you know what? I did because I'm here right now. Day by day, by the grace of God, I have earned my way back in this ring. Day by day, by the grace of God, I have earned the respect of my kids again. Day by day, I have earned my life back. When I stand across from you and I see that across your waist, that symbolizes for me, I'm sorry. That's my way of telling my family, I'm sorry. That's my way of telling my kids, I'm going to provide a better way of life for them. That's my new addiction. I am addicted. I'm addicted to the high I get from them. I'm addicted to the high I get when I go home and tell my family, hey, I'm doing it. I'm addicted to the satisfaction I get to tell everybody like you who didn't believe in me so you can stick it up your ass. I'm addicted to the do or die feeling I'm going to have at No Way Out. Oh, what a high it is. But the difference between you and me, Brock, is that I'm an addict and I'll do anything, run over anybody it's going to take to get that around my waist and get my high. Oh man, 2 great promos, 2 weeks in a row. Eddie had everything riding on this match. It was like his life depended on this match. He was focused and hell-bent on walking out of the Cow Palace as WWE Champion. Brock has never had a challenger as focused as Eddie Guerrero was. As for Brock himself, he was acting like a jock. You'll never do it. You're addicted to losing. Too bad Lesnar doesn't really speak nowadays, because I feel like he'd do a decent job. At No Way Out, Eddie went to war with Lesnar. Initially, it was Lesnar who was dominating, but Eddie managed to bounce back by targeting Lesnar's knee for a bit. That helped Eddie gain momentum, and at some points, it felt like it was Eddie's night. Yeah, Lesnar came back and German suplexed Eddie, but there was little doubt that Eddie was losing once we were in the middle of the match. And once Goldberg interfered, everyone knew that this was gonna be his night. Eddie managed to counter the F5 into a DDT, and then he went to the top rope where he hit the frog splash. 1, 2, 3, Eddie was champion. Good God, this story is so emotional. From that night in Minneapolis to rehab, Eddie was looking to redeem himself, and finally, Eddie has exercised his demons by becoming the new WWE Champion. This was a token to Eddie. The title to Eddie meant that he has settled everything. He completed his mission, and the commentary team was awesome. Everyone wanted Eddie to win this, and it made for such a legendary moment. I like the fact that despite Goldberg interfering, it wasn't the ending of the match. It was Eddie lying, cheating, and stealing his way to the victory. Plus, it was Lesnar who brought in the title. On Eddie's victory, Bruce Pritchard explained what it was like backstage, and I quote, "So when it came to reality and their guy Guerrero just defeated Lesnar, a classic David versus Goliath, you just felt it. He immediately went into the audience, went to his mother. We were crying backstage. It was one of those special moments where you have an idea and it's executed better than I even imagined." It was a standing ovation. There were hugs and tears all around. Vince was crying. He was very emotional because it was magical. Everyone believed there was a happy ending. Brock came back, and it was one of the best matches he ever had in his life. He was so thankful. Every once in a while, a good guy wins, and that's what happened in this night. On the February 19th, 2004 episode of SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero came out to celebrate his victory. Paul Heyman, however, beforehand announced that Eddie's defending the title later that night to rain on its parade. His opponent, well, it was Chavo Guerrero. Anyways, Eddie came out and he was excited. His first SmackDown as champion. You could see the pure euphoria in Eddie. He's wanted this moment for a very long time. Once Eddie grabbed a mic, he said that he's usually shy, but today he's going to say that he's the WWE Champion. He thanked everyone that was supporting him and that were behind him. Eddie chants intensified. He then said that he didn't steal these balloons and confetti for nothing. Then Chavo Guerrero and his father came out. What a way to crash a party. Chavo sucks chant intensified. Chavo whined about how he beat Ray and that's the biggest win in his career, but despite this victory, all the attention was on Eddie. The fans continued to chant Eddie, and Chavo said that Eddie's been stealing his spotlight his entire life. Chavo added that when Eddie loses the title to him later that night, this party is gonna be over. Eddie replied to this saying that the only thing Chavo's taken tonight is an ass kicking. But Chavo revealed a game changer. He announced that the special referee for the match was his father, Chavo Guerrero Sr. And the match was set for later that night. Later on though, Chavo Sr. was attacked by someone. Kurt Angle complained that these attacks have happened way too much recently, and a few minutes later, Paul Heyman convinced Angle to become the referee for the matchup. Alright, it was go time. Eddie versus Chavo for the WWE Championship with a reluctant Kurt Angle as the referee. During the match, Eddie managed to hit the frog splash and it looked like Chavo was down for the count, but the ref Kurt Angle decided not to count. It was at this moment Eddie realized that he is screwed. Angle delivered a right hand to the WWE Champion and he absolutely brutalized him. Angle busted Eddie open and he hit the Angle Slam, and Rey Mysterio tried to make the save, but Angle caught him in midair and he delivered a powerbomb. He then press slammed Rey right out of the ring. Kurt Angle ended the assault by blasting Eddie with his own title. Damn. The next week, Eddie came out like nothing happened the previous week. He was feeling good. In the beginning, he was kind of normal, but during the promo, Eddie began to show frustration with what happened to him the previous week. Eddie then called out Kurt Angle, and Angle showed no signs of appearing. Eddie then decided to bring the fight to Kurt Angle, and he walked to the back. Once he went backstage, Eddie was confronted by Paul Heyman. He ignored him and he tried entering Angle's locker room. Once he noticed Angle several feet away, he went straight up to him. He pushed Paul Heyman, who bumped into Don Marie, and this led to Heyman calling for security to eject Eddie out of the arena. Later that night, Eddie did return after hearing Kurt Angle's remarks towards him. He said that the last thing WWE needs is a drug addict as champion, and Eddie attacked Kurt Angle due to this. Paul Heyman called for the police this time to arrest Eddie. Angle continued to verbally assault Eddie as he was being escorted to a police car. Now, the story of this was Angle thought that Guerrero was a poor example for children, and he didn't want the WWE champion to be someone who was immoral, because, you know, lie, cheating, and stealing. Basically, Angle was like the moral compass of the WWE, at least that's what it seemed like. On the March 4th, 2004 episode of SmackDown, Paul Heyman came out to demand an apology from Eddie Guerrero. This was due to his conduct the previous week, his misrepresentation of SmackDown, and this is what Paul Heyman was saying. This to me was one of Eddie's memorable segments. He wanted Eddie to apologize for his reprehensible behavior last week and for disgracing the WWE Championship. Eddie did come out and he apologized for anything he's done to disgrace the WWE Championship. He apologized to the WWE fans. Heyman accepted the apology before Eddie wanted to add something. Here it is. I lied. He made fun of Heyman's reaction, and he said that he's not going to sit here and say that he's sorry for being a proud father, a proud husband, for being a provider for his family, and the thing he's really proud of is walking into WrestleMania as WWE Champion and walking out of WrestleMania 20 as WWE Champion. Heyman didn't like this one bit. He said that he wished that he was in a position to beat some sense into Guerrero, and Eddie replied to this saying that Heyman couldn't beat him with both hands tied behind his back. Heyman took this as a challenge, so he booked the matchup. Paul Heyman versus Eddie Guerrero, with Guerrero's hands being tied behind his back. Despite the stipulation, Heyman was getting his ass kicked by a defenseless Eddie Guerrero. Heyman lured Eddie to the stage when Kurt Angle, who wasn't on the show, appeared. Angle, wearing a sweater, taped his hands preparing for the attack. Eddie tried to fight, but Angle easily dropped him. He continued his attack on Latino Heat and he grabbed the WWE Championship. A defenseless Eddie spat in Angle's face, which prompted him to blast Latino Heat with the gold. Anyways, the match between the two at WrestleMania was really special. Eddie came out on a special lowrider, and it's a great thing that Eddie walked into WrestleMania as the champion. Anyways, they exchanged some amateur wrestling moves in the beginning, and it wasn't until they transitioned to the bigger moves that the match kicked up a notch. Nonetheless, this was a WrestleMania classic. Angle managed to finally lock Eddie in the ankle lock near the end of the match, but before this, Eddie untied his boots to relieve some of the pressure. Angle locked him in, but then he accidentally pulled Eddie's boot. This led to Angle approaching Eddie, but he walked straight into a roll-up. 1, 2, 3, Eddie retains. He even used the ropes for leverage. Awesome stuff. Eddie outsmarted Angle on the grandest stage. That picture of Eddie holding the title and the boot is worth 1,000 words. After WrestleMania, Eddie Guerrero defended the WWE Championship against Rey Mysterio. They had a pretty good matchup, which is something that these two have always done. This match ended with Eddie Guerrero victorious. Right after the match, though, Paul Heyman came out and he said that English has just become a second language on SmackDown. He then said that he hopes both of Eddie and Rey's families get deported. Heyman also said that there isn't a man that's gonna stand in his way of employing his vision. Out came The Undertaker. This was when The Undertaker had just become the dead man. As The Undertaker stood there in the ring, Eddie, Rey, and Heyman were cornered. They were terrified. Eddie and Rey then shoved Heyman right up to the dead man and they ran away. He received a tombstone from The Undertaker and SmackDown ended. On the March 22nd, 2004 episode of Raw, which was a special draft episode, Eddie Guerrero defended the WWE Championship against newcomer Triple H. That match ended with the entire WWE roster brawling, and if you guys do make noise for it in the comments section, then I'll squeeze it in and try to find a day to make it. On that week's SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero greeted the entire SmackDown roster. Once he went up to Booker T, he wasn't feeling it. Booker was clearly upset at the fact that he was traded from Raw to SmackDown. At one point, Booker called Eddie a champion of the minor leagues. Eddie didn't like this, and Booker spat on the ground before telling Eddie that he's just been insulted. This led to a scuffle between both men. Later on, Booker T asked the new general manager, Kurt Angle, to do something about this. Angle, who was clearly upset at his WrestleMania loss to Eddie Guerrero, booked them in a WWE Championship match against Booker T for later that night. Booker T digged that proposal. He liked it. On his way to the ring for the matchup, Booker was confronted by the SmackDown Superstars. Now, this should be a video in its own right, because I remember Booker feuded with The Undertaker around this time period, and who knows, maybe it could be good. Eddie, who was burnt out, struggled throughout the match. He, however, managed to fight through the pain, and he hit the frog splash near the end of the match. Right when he went for the cover, though, Bradshaw interfered to cause the DQ. He assaulted Eddie, and he hit the clothesline from Hell to end SmackDown on top. Alright, this was probably bizarre at the time, because Bradshaw was just with the APA, and all of a sudden the fans are supposed to believe he's a viable threat for the WWE Championship. It was gonna take a few weeks for this to sink in. By the way, his name was JBL at this point. The next week, Kurt Angle, in spite of Eddie Guerrero, made the newly named JBL the 5th nominee for the Great American Award. Now, whoever won this award would also win the right to face Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship. JBL bragged about his lifestyle and his successes before Eddie went after him. Bradshaw ran into the limo, but Eddie went through the moonroof and he grabbed his hat. JBL threatened Eddie for taking the hat, and Eddie retaliated by desecrating JBL's hat. After the fans threw their trash and spat into it, Eddie stomped on the hat while JBL was standing in his limo in an angry state. He then threw the hat into the crowd. The following week, Kurt Angle announced the winner of the Great American Award. Initially, it looked like it was John Cena, but JBL grabbed the mic and begged for Kurt Angle to see some footage he filmed the previous night. I think you guys know what this was. Anyways, in that footage, JBL was talking about illegal immigrants and whatnot, and in the end, he's catching some guys crossing the border, and he kicks them. The fans booed this, obviously, and Kurt Angle was impressed. So, the winner of the Great American Award was John Bradshaw Layfield. As Angle unveiled the trophy, it wasn't the original one. JBL and Angle were fuming, and they called for Eddie to come out. Out he came. And there's the trophy. Look at Kurt Angle. He looks like an angry school teacher. Eddie entered the ring with the trophy, and Angle called him a disgrace. Eddie said that he liked the trophy. He thought it was beautiful, but then he broke the wing of the eagle. Angle was going ballistic, and after failing to fix it, Eddie said that it's alright because eagles could fly with only one wing. He then blasted JBL with the trophy to send him running. As JBL and Kurt Angle stood on the outside, Latino Heat decided to grab a steel chair and destroy the trophy despite Angle's warnings. Also, look at Angle's reactions, like he's making the segment look even more hilarious. Anyways, the match was initially gonna happen the following week, but it was later postponed to Judgment Day. In the weeks leading to the pay-per-view, the feud was basically Eddie, the guy who's humble, versus JBL, the white-collar, arrogant, egotistical guy. But at a live event on May 2nd, 2004, things took a turn. Eddie Guerrero brought out his family and his mother out to the ring. They were supposed to celebrate Mother's Day, but JBL came out to crash the party. He hit the clothesline from hell on Eddie and he blasted him with a championship belt. Bradshaw then went up to Eddie's mother, and as he laid his hand on her arm, she suffered a heart attack. According to Bruce Pritchard, this was legit. And these aren't Eddie's words. Nobody's gonna touch my mother. So much that I just wanted John to approach her, not touch her, I said. Eddie, let him go to take the flowers. And all this hoopla is going on, and she wasn't feeling all that well. But in the hoopla, she lost her breath and went down before she was supposed to go down. I'm going like, God damn it. Guerrero missed their cue. But it was very real because it was real. Her doctor is looking at me going, I think she's having a heart attack. I said, we're not going to go to the heart attack route, and then I realized he's serious. And it went from an angle to, we gotta get her out of here. That's what Pritchard's claiming, and there's conflicting accounts from what happened, and it could be real, I'm not sure. Nonetheless, it made JBL from an already hated heel to an absolute mega heel. It depends on your perspective once again. To say Eddie was fuming at this point would be an understatement to say the least. On the May 6, 2004 episode of SmackDown, JBL explained everything from his perspective. He said that he politely told the old lady before calling her Eddie's mother to leave the ring. Michael Cole and Taz tried to talk some sense into JBL, but he wasn't having it. He outright refused to apologize. You'd think someone told JBL that he went broke or something. Like, look at his reaction. They asked him to apologize, and he's fuming. Like, come on. JBL said that he isn't in Tucson for Eddie's safety. He then accused Eddie's mother of faking a heart attack because she's a Guerrero. JBL then said that his parents bred him for success and that his people came to this country on a boat, not an intertube. On that night, Eddie was set to team up with Rob Van Dam to face the Dudleys, but Paul Heyman convinced Kurt Angle to remove Eddie from the match because Eddie was basically going crazy at this point. He was angry and he was going to take his frustrations out on the Dudleys, and he might do something worse. Eddie didn't take this news lightly, and later on he ran out to save RVD and Rey Mysterio. He went ballistic. He whacked everyone in sight with a chair, including the referee. RVD tried to cool Eddie down, but he received a chair shot too, and the chair broke due to these chair shots. That's how vicious these chair shots were. On the final SmackDown before Judgment Day, the GM Kurt Angle warned Eddie that if he did anything wrong tonight, then there'll be severe consequences. Angle called for Eddie to sit down, but he ignored him. Later on, Angle went up to Eddie and he demanded his respect. He informed Latino Heat that if he interferes in JBL's match with Rey Mysterio, then he'll be stripped of the WWE Championship and he'll award it to JBL. Kurt Angle then said that Eddie's mother suffering a heart attack wasn't JBL's fault. It might have been from a heart disease. Eddie didn't like this. He just wanted to kick Kurt Angle's ass. A unsettled Eddie Guerrero came out to the ring later that night. He said that when he wears the WWE Championship, he represents each and every one of the fans. He represents America. He added that a true American doesn't go out and show off. America is about the land of opportunity. It's a melting pot. Unlike JBL, who says that it's based on his blue blood ancestors. Eddie said that he's gonna test JBL's character at Judgment Day because he's gonna bring it to the fullest. He's gonna kick the living out of JBL. The fans went crazy and Eddie continued. He called JBL a coward for what he did at the live event, and he also told his wife Vicky to turn off the TV because he doesn't want his kids to see what he's gonna do to JBL in 30 seconds. To say Latino Heat was fired up at this point, once again, would be an understatement. He called out Bradshaw, who actually answered the call. Eddie wasn't patient, so he went up to JBL's limo. He tried opening the door, but it was locked. He then found a lead pipe and he smashed the window. Once he opened the door, there was nobody in the limousine. It would become apparent what this was a few seconds later. A damn setup. JBL called for the police officers to arrest Eddie Guerrero for vandalizing his limousine. While Eddie was cuffed, JBL taunted him and he asked him about his mother. This prompted Eddie to run away from the police and run straight into JBL. They brawled before the police managed to take Eddie away. As the police were taking Eddie away, JBL told him to use his one phone call to contact his mother. After beating Rey Mysterio in the main event, JBL cut a promo. He said that he doesn't give a damn about Eddie Guerrero's mother, and that when he beats her son at Judgment Day, chances are she'll suffer another heart attack, and if she dies, she dies. JBL even guaranteed victory at Judgment Day. Like, this guy is going crazy. Like, he's saying all this stuff, and Eddie Guerrero is at the brink of breaking point. He's about to release all the intensity on JBL at Judgment Day. That's what's gonna happen. It's clear. At Judgment Day, JBL paid for his sins. Now, I just recently watched this yesterday, and I was blown away as to how awesome it was. It made me want to watch their sequel at Great American Bash. Now, I don't rate matches, but if I had to rate this, it's perfect. You could say that it's because of the blood, but I don't think so. Yeah, sure, the blood added to the match and the story, but the performances of JBL and Eddie Guerrero were top-notch. The Staples Center was on the edge of their seats, and it just made for an epic showdown. I avoided watching this one for no real reason. The chair shot JBL gave Eddie sounded like a gunshot, and the blood squirted throughout the ring, and oh my god. Eddie struggled to keep his composure during the match, and JBL was acting like a jerk, insulting Eddie's mom and offering her the housekeeper job in his house. It was wild, and it's probably the greatest matchup in WWE history to end in a DQ. For me, it's either this or HBK and Mankind at Mind Games. I loved when Eddie let the temper get the best of him and he got himself disqualified. Yeah, sure, you could say that this finish sucked, but it added to the story, and they were gonna fight once again. I remember at one point Michael Cole said that the ring looks like an art canvas, except that isn't paint, it's blood. Eddie returned the chair shot to JBL after the match, and despite the referee ringing the bell a few minutes earlier, Eddie was still hell-bent on making Bradshaw suffer. JBL at one point had to be dragged away by officials from Eddie, and that wasn't even it. Eddie sprinted up the aisle and he lashed onto JBL. Many other officials had to come out and pull the WWE champion away. JBL crawled to the back and Eddie stood in the ring to end the show. Tremendous story, damn. On that week's SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero collapsed in the ring. This was in storyline because of the amount of blood he lost at Judgment Day. JBL did look concerned, but that didn't stop him from covering Eddie during the match. He got the win, by the way. The feud between these two was far from over. Kurt Angle, the SmackDown general manager, booked a rematch between the two at the Great American Bash, but JBL gets to choose the stipulation for the matchup. He chose a Texas bull rope match. Now, you guys know that the feud between these two was personal at this point, but it was turned into a comedy feud for a bit once again. On the June 10, 2004 episode of SmackDown, JBL arrived to the arena from Manhattan, New York. As he stood outside the limo, he decided to leave Long Island and go back to New York City. He told the driver to go back to New York City. After many seconds, JBL once again told him to go back to New York City, and the limo driver wouldn't respond. But when he did, it was Eddie Guerrero. He told JBL that they are going to New York City, but it's going to be better than Disneyland. Later that night, Eddie returned and the limo was absolutely destroyed. Guerrero opened the door for JBL, who was knocked out on the limo floor. Eddie entered the ring and he asked Bradshaw if he had a rough night. Michael Cole also said that JBL looks like a salad. He crawled out the limousine, and Eddie said that JBL's limo was banged up just like he's gonna be at the Great American Bash. JBL was crying as he was observing the destruction Eddie Guerrero had made. See, this is why I like this feud. Like, there were some comedy moments, there were some serious moments, and that's a good thing that Eddie Guerrero does. Like, one minute he could be so damn serious, and he could show off his Latino Heat temper, but at another moment, he could show off that comedy side. At the Great American Bash, both men had a good match. Well, it obviously wasn't as good as the Judgment Day match. It would be wrong to compare both matches. Eddie wasn't as pissed as he was during this match. He was just looking to retain the title. At least that's what it looked like to me. So I don't think you should compare them. This one was more strategic. Eddie did get some with JBL, and JBL himself did hit a powerbomb on Eddie through the announce table, but it was clear that both men were focused on winning the title. Eddie busted JBL open with a chair reminiscent of Judgment Day, and the ending saw Eddie and JBL touch 3 of the 4 turnbuckles. As JBL was on the verge of touching the 4th one, Eddie pulled him away and used the cowbell as a weapon. He then leaped over JBL to touch the 4th corner and retain his WWE Championship. The SmackDown GM Kurt Angle came out for some reason. He showed footage of JBL's shoulder touching before Eddie's hand touched the turnbuckle. Kurt apologized and he announced that JBL is the new WWE Champion. Oh my god. The look on Bradshaw's face says it all. Personally, I felt sad when the referee took the title away from Eddie. Eddie was looking at the title and the ref took it away, and that's it. It was like a ton of weight was off Eddie's shoulder. At least that's what people say, because Eddie was burnt out. Now, the fact that JBL won the title is shocking. Simply put, the guy 3 months ago beforehand was barely on SmackDown, and now he's the champion. On if Eddie's title reign was a failure, Bruce Pritchard had this to say. I disagree with that, because Eddie knew what his job was, and Eddie was coming in at a very different time. Eddie did very well at the box office, and Eddie actually had turned some things around when you go back and look at it from where it was. And on Eddie helping JBL get over, without Eddie Guerrero, there would be no JBL. Because Eddie took that as his project. I'm going to get this guy over. That we tried a lot of different gimmicks with. The APA was over. That was over good. But here now, John, as a singles guy, can he be an attraction? And Eddie looked at it as a challenge, and Eddie looked at it as, yeah, I'll make him an attraction. I'll get that son of a over bigger than he's ever been and bigger than anybody could imagine. That's what Eddie did. Now, as I said, Eddie was exhausted as champion. He felt like he shouldn't continue being champion due to being burnt out, and his performances were suffering due to that. So what did he do? He lobbied for JBL to become champion. JBL himself had this to say about his abrupt push in March of 2004. It just happened that I was in the right place at the right time. It was late in my career, and I thought my career was over. I tore my biceps and had 2 hernia surgeries. I didn't know if I would do much of anything again. And all of a sudden, you had people get hurt. Kurt Angle got hurt, Brock Lesnar had left the company, and WWE needed somebody against Eddie Guerrero right away. That's when the JBL character was created. And JBL explained how Eddie Guerrero contributed to his career. If it had been anybody but Eddie Guerrero, you would have never heard of JBL. But because of Eddie, I had the incredible run, and it was just the right time. I had the perfect foil on this incredible Latino star who was one of my best friends. By the looks of this video, I think you know what the next one is going to be. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the 3 amigos on the like button and perhaps a frog splash on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.